Actually, every single person on stage here has gone to the depths, has gone to the lowest of the lows, and has had a comeback. And I really wanted to, I had to arm wrestle with Gabe because I really wanted to moderate this one panel, because this panel, which is about courage and about resiliency, really resonates with me. Because I've had, a period in my life where I was just down and out, completely down and out, lowest of the lows, couldn't get out of bed, it was bad. But we're not here to tell my story, but what I can tell you is from that experience of awfulness, of absolute awfulness, not even being able to be present with your family, that is actually the best thing that ever happened to me in my life, to learn from that, and every day to wake up, think about that, to ground myself, and be so humbled and appreciative for now what I have. So we've got 2 clients who really epitomize, again, courage, resiliency, and I think like in the current times when there's so much fear and anxiety out there, I think it was a really important thing for us to really just take a break from the details of the business and think about what we can learn from these folks, not just for ourselves, but for our team and the folks that we're looking to work with, partner with, and have on our teams. So with that, I want to introduce Misty and Long. And I want to start off with Misty and sort of let people know about your journey. And if you could start wherever you want to start and lead us to where you are now.
Yeah, absolutely. Hi guys, I'm Misty. I'm a team leader here in San Antonio, and I am going to share with you a very vulnerable story today of my journey, and it includes both highs and lows. But I don't want you guys to focus on the lows. What I want you to take away is seek the qualities and the characteristics that you see in both my story and Long that got us not only to survival, but thriving in our lives today. So with that, I want to start by saying, setting a basis point of where I'm at today. I have learned to measure my success based on happiness. So if happiness is measured on a scale of 1 to 10, I am by far living a 12. So that is today. Going back a little bit, definitely. In 2012, I was faced with losing everything. So I was literally rock bottom. I had been living my best life, and I found myself facing my worst nightmare. Backwards a little bit to rewind, I was born to a single mom in the 70s into a family that was a lot of drama, a lot of insecurity, a lot of instability. And so my biggest aspiration in life as a young child was to find security and stability. Sadly, most of my friends had aspirations to go on and do big things, to become doctors and lawyers. I just wanted to have a stable life. So with that, that all changed in my 20s. I married into a family that owned a real estate brokerage. I became their ISA, and that was back in the day when we had to call from the white pages, if that tells you anything. But that opened my eyes to something different, opportunity, the ability to provide for myself and create a lifestyle. Real estate did not work out for me at that time. I was very young, but I did have a new fire in my belly that was lit, that has never to this day stopped. I went on, that was the early 2000s, I went on to get a very high-paying job in high tech. I had a very fancy title. I had airline miles, stock options, you name it. And it was a brand new lifestyle that I had never experienced before. I started to build an identity around this new lifestyle. Fancy cars, big houses, travel, all the things. 2008 came and my life started to spiral. I lost my job because the little Silicon Valley here in Austin started to crumble, and I got a divorce, and I found myself in a custody case that cost me well over $200,000. Most of that I put on a credit card. You do whatever you have to, right, when it's your kids are involved. To add insult to injury, I went on from there, and a few years later found myself in a very toxic and abusive relationship. Ultimately, that situation cost me everything. Over the 3 years that relationship, we'll call it a situation, lasted, I lost all the houses, all the cars, the stock options. I had over 1 million miles on airline from travel and things that I had done building in the high-tech era, and all of that was gone. Even worse, when I finally made my final exit out of that, in retaliation, everything that I owned, material items, passports, makeup, shoes, was all destroyed. I left that relationship with my life and the clothes on my back. Pretty traumatic. Thank you. With that, I must have been pretty pathetic because my ex-husband let me sleep on his couch, and that was my comeback, really. It took me about 2 years in that era to find any amount of stability. But I did. I got my real estate license back. I reunited with my husband, now Todd. We went to high school together. Yeah, exactly. And in 2015, we opened a brokerage together. We decided to go big and open a brokerage. Our transactions were growing, our agent count was growing, we were living the dream. I was back financially and emotionally 100%. Swiped my credit cards for some fancy coaching, and ironically, Long was my coach during that time. And we went on to build a really epic business. It was really something amazing. But like Howard said previously, I think it was yesterday, what goes up must come down. And this time it was tragedy. This one's hard, so I'll keep it together. But my business partner and our team's sales manager, Todd's lifelong best friend, died of COVID in one of the most horrific COVID deaths you can imagine. In a hospital room, alone, for 60 days with no contact with the outside world, zero. I have text messages on my phone between us that would bring you to your knees. Anybody in this room, it would bring you to your knees. It was terrifying for him. So once again, I was faced with adversity. What do you do? This time I was emotionally drained. This experience was so much worse than any amount of loss that I had in the past. With that, I had to navigate. I had a team, and I had a lot of responsibilities, and I could have burned it all down. I could have said, I'm done, forget it, but I went on to navigate through that. I'm very, very happy to say that our team is still together today. We're doing amazing things. We're still changing, we're still adjusting, but with that, we are thriving. This is where I learned to measure my happiness my success by happiness. And I am truly, literally just very, very thankful for where we're at today. So I just want to say to anybody that is, in a storm right now, just know that if I can navigate hard circumstances like that anybody can. I didn't come with opportunity. I didn't enter this world with entitlement or any kind of special skill set to get through it. But what I've been able to overcome, I don't fear what's coming in the future. I don't fear the real estate market. That's just the market. It's gonna go up, it's gonna go down. I'm resilient, I can survive, and so can you.
Good job. Long.
Great story from Misty. I got to hear her story. I got to hear Howard. Her story probably way more relatable to you guys than mine I'm about to share. But one thing about me is I'm easily inspired. I was inspired by her story, by Howard. So a few years ago, I started sharing my story, and I find out it inspired other people. So now I've done it many times because if Misty and I and Howard can do it while we're sitting up here to share with you guys can do it. I don't care where you are, where you came from, it's where you're going that matters, right? So my story is a little bit different than Misty. I'm originally from Vietnam. After the Vietnam War, the communists have this thing called re-education camp. So if you can think for yourself, it's a threat. And my dad, being a PhD from Florida State University, vice chancellor of the, thank you, vice chancellor of the largest private university in Saigon, he was on that list. So he was enrolled in re-education camp. I was 8 years old. My two younger brothers were 4 and 2 when he was arrested. My brothers don't remember that day, 8 years old, I still remember vividly what happened. So he was arrested, I was 8, and my mom, of course, has to work 2 jobs to support us, 3 kids. And in Vietnam, prison is different than here. So you actually have to support your own prisoner, so my mom would have to bring food to him frequently. They give you just enough food, rice and water to survive. She worked 2 jobs to support us 3 kids. And my grandparents lived with us because my dad was the oldest, and that's the tradition. So at 8 years old, I get to be the man of the house. So during this time in Vietnam, it was called the ration period, where even if you have money, you couldn't buy anything. I just went to Starbucks and bought this big coffee thing that Howard just made fun of me. I had money, I could buy it. That's not how it worked. So every day, part of my job, after school, I would go line up in long lines, hotter and more humid than it is right here, right now, for hours to get our ration based on head counts. So on Monday, we get rice. Tuesday might be spices. Wednesday might be detergent, whatever, right? I did that from 8 to 13. So during this time, a lot of people left Vietnam in search of a better life. About 2 million people left Vietnam, and only 1 million made it. It's a 50% chance of survival, flip of a coin. Well, we're a coastal country, so a lot of people left Vietnam by boat. That's why we were called the boat people. So at 13, my 3rd try, I finally made it. And it's a whole long story. I'm giving you an abbreviated version here. But I'm one of 153 people. So half of you guys in this room will be on this stage with another layer around of like bunk bed that you can also sit on. 153 people, okay? For 3 days, we fished down the Mekong River in a river fishing boat underneath. Everyone go number 1, number 2, thrown up, whatever. I found out 3 days later, but it was an eternity to me. We got out to international water. That's when everyone comes on the top. That's when you see in movies and books of the boat people, right? 100 people on top. That's what happened. And then you float and hope you survive. That was the escape plan. We were lucky with 1 day left of gas. A large French shipping vessel passed by, called to the nearest refugee camp. Red Cross has refugee camps set up all around Vietnam at that time. Where we were, I ended up in Malaysia. The refugee camp called Bidong. In Wikipedia page was nicknamed Hell Island at the time, considered to be the most heavily populated place on earth. I was one of 40,000 people living the size of a football field. My first night I actually slept. My first night there, I didn't sleep. My first night I actually slept, I woke up to rats the size of my dogs now. Because I was only 13, classified as an orphan, and I had an uncle in Minnesota who sponsored me. That's how I ended up in Minnesota. I was only there for 1 year. There were people there 3 to 4 to 5 years. Made it to America, lived with my aunt and uncle. My younger brother, also made the same trip 2 years later. Won the flip, made it to Indonesia. That's where his refugee camp was. We sponsored him to America. I moved out, raised him from 8th grade to high school, went to University of Minnesota, worked 3 jobs, got my US citizen, sponsored my mom and my youngest brother over, went on a crusade to speak on my dad's behalf to get him released to America. He was 8, I was 8 when he was arrested. I saw him again when I was 32 years old. I spent my first 15 years, and all you guys have kids. 11 days I was out when I got to send a telegram. Some of you guys don't even know what a telegram is, probably. To my mom to say I made it. I have kids. When they're 12, 13, or sleepover, I'm calling and texting them to see if they're okay. You imagine 11 days and not know your kid live or die? Your firstborn son? Anyways, my first 15 years on the mortgage side, along with a couple of business partners, we helped build it to the #1 independently owned mortgage company in Minnesota. Guess what? Circumstances that we can't control, Vietnam War market, the market crash. We thought we're sitting flush with cash, ready to take advantage of the market share. Found out one of our partners stole all the money. I ended up liquidating my 401k and the savings account because it was the right thing to do to make payroll for the next couple of payrolls so my people can find job. Shut down the company, filed bankruptcy, went through divorce, went to real estate side, started a realty group, went through some hard time again along with my other business partner who's not here today, Mike Bernier. We are now the #1 independently owned in Minnesota and the top 150 in the country at 148. Thank you. Thank you. What I want to share with you guys is like Misty and like Howard. It's not where you are, it's not where you are today, not where you come from, it's where you go. And we cannot control the circumstances. Matter of fact, my first night at the refugee camp, when I finally checked in and I found a spot on the beach, and I remember I cried all night. That's the first time I cried as a 13-year-old, emotionally cry, right? I've been hurt, I've been beat up before, whatever. I cried because all of a sudden I realized it hit me, I made it. And I remember thinking, well, wait a minute, is that a good thing or a bad thing? Right? Because everybody I knew on the other side of the ocean, I'll probably never see again. And it is true. 43 years later, I've only seen my mom, my dad, and my younger brother. I've never seen my grandparents, any of my cousin, any of my aunt and uncle, any of my friends. Okay? And my job was, if I made it, to figure out things for myself and then take care of my family. 13 years old. I remember crying all night, feeling hopeless and helpless. And it wasn't until 30 years later I figured out that night what made me who I am, and Misty and how was that when you go through something like that, the mindset piece is so important. Okay, everything you guys learn here today, all the technology, all the support you have to go back, it's up here that you're going to succeed or not. And that night, I remember crying all night thinking, am I lucky, am I unlucky? The sun had set when I started crying. The sun was rising when I hear people waking up. I don't know anybody. I'm sitting going, what the hell am I supposed to do? I remember at that moment, luckily, I told myself I was lucky and not unlucky. I said, put your big boy pants on and go figure the shit out. Okay, that's what I told myself. And I did not realize how important that was. I could have gone through life complaining, right? I'm a boat boy, 13-year-old, what am I supposed to do? So I'm telling you guys that as certain as the sunset that night and the sunrise that day, we are going to face circumstances that's out of your control. And you cannot control the circumstances. You control what you do with it because it's all in the mindset like Misty and Howard and myself have gone through. And that's why I want to share my story with you guys.
So we almost lost, G and Chris and I almost lost Ylopo 4 distinct times in the first probably 2 years of our existence. 4 distinct times where we went right to the edge, where it was gone. 4 different traumatic events. And our dream would have gone like that. When I think about that, lessons learned from that time period, I think about how we didn't obsess about it or the problem. We just said, here's the problem. And we took action, number 1. We took action and we stayed in motion. So we stayed in motion, we took action, we were creative, and we just wouldn't accept, literally would not accept defeat. And I'll tell you those stories sometime over a beer. But I wanted to go back to you, Misty, and then you, Long. So when you think about, and I'll tell you guys, I went through some bad shit, but honestly, hearing your stories puts my shit in perspective. Not that bad compared to what you guys literally went through. But when you think about this journey that you had, this very difficult journey, and now where you're at, which is in a great place. Specifically, like what were lessons learned, like that you can give to the audience? Because we all, every single one of us here, goes through shit and trauma and loss and stress and anxiety, all that kind of stuff. So what specifically from your journey are some lessons that would be valuable for our audience?
For me, I think I learned that there's 3 ways you can go through a storm. You can sometimes, and most of the time, avoid it with denial and not go through it, which ultimately, if you're in a business or a business owner like we all are, that's a death of a business. You can, and I've done all 3 of these, you can tiptoe through it and try to navigate it with the messy middle, which is very, very hard. That's where you get burned, and that's where you lose a lot of your soul and your momentum. Or you can just blaze through it, and you can just fiercely trust yourself and forge through. And that's what I did this last time. And what I learned is it was so much easier to blaze through that fire, get through it, and on the other side, there was so much growth. There was so much trust in myself. So I think if you're facing that kind of adversity, you just have to ask yourself, like, you're good, there's no way through it. I mean, there's no way around it. You've just got to go through it. Why get burned? Just blaze through it and fiercely move forward.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, to build on what Misty said, for me, I learned that life to me is what I call a choice theory. No matter what you face, every time you have 3 options. One is choose to do nothing, which sometimes is the right choice, right? Things working well, whatever, that's good. But most of the time, it's a definition of insanity, right? Doing the same thing over and over and over again, expecting a different result by doing nothing. The second option is choose to change the way you think. Like the way Howard said, he think about what to do next, whatever. Because where the mind goes, the body follows. Yeah. Whatever you think up here, your whole action will follow whatever you think up here, right? And or the third option is usually after you change the way you think is what you do. For many of you guys, when you go home, all this thing you learn here, I'll tell you right now, I've been to many of these events with Misty and Howard too. I come back to see someone next year, they haven't done a thing since the last time they were in that event similar. They haven't implement anything. Write down the 10, 12 things you want, prioritize them, do the first 2, 3, or whatever, and get through it. So change what you do. So for me, that's what I learned from all these experiences. No matter what happened, I cannot change the circumstances. I have 3 choices to do with that, whatever's happening to me.
So, right now, and I think the reason why my focus yesterday morning was to share with you guys why I'm so optimistic right now, based on what I'm seeing in the macroeconomic picture, based upon what I think will happen down the line once the dust settles regarding commissions. Very optimistic there, and very optimistic about the tools that we're building for you guys so you can crush it. But despite all that, there's probably still a bunch of people in the room who are like, okay, I still got like seller lock out there. We don't have a lot of units, changing hands right now. I am worried about, where the things settle with commissions and all that. So what like other specific pieces of advice could you give to people when they all of a sudden kind of then vacillate towards some of those negative thoughts, those paralyzing thoughts? Can you give them something specific and tangible to kind of unlock them and keep them going and positive?
Definitely. I think for me, it is having a very, very strong morning routine where I get my mindset strong every single day. The adversity comes in all sorts of ways throughout the day in real estate. We're in a people business. It's messy. So for me, I've got to get my mindset strong early in the day. I start every morning, 5 days a week, with a morning huddle with our team. We can bring anything to the table there, but at the end of the day, that is our positive environment where we start our day and we really just get ourselves in order. So I think it really does start with that, focusing on yourself. You can't control everything that goes on in this business, and there's a lot of there's a lot of negativity coming at us just in the environment, but you can control your thoughts and your mind. And so having that really, really strong morning routine has been a game changer for me. I really focus on what I'm telling myself about the day. I'm going to win the day. This is going to be a great day. And I just really, it just kind of works out when you get your mind straight.
Yeah, I do the same with Misty as well, but I will add this. Your mind cannot tell the difference from visualizing to reality. So when you visualize something, for me, I see the power in that. First of all, we are all habits. Whatever you're doing every day, look at your calendar and don't lie to yourself. You're working hard enough. What are you doing the 8 hours a day? Are you practicing your script? Are you making a call? Are you doing all this thing, right? Because whatever your goal is, if you reverse engineer back, you know these are the 5, 6 things you do every day to achieve your goal, but it starts with your mind. So I visualize a lot. I believe in visualize. And when I go to a listing, I will visualize. I'm driving up, knocking on the door, someone answer, invite me in, I get a glass of water, I'm gonna go through my presentation, I'm gonna say, okay, I'm gonna help you sign. I'll give you a perfect example. Last week, I'm in this 50-plus soccer league, so I'm in the old fogey league now. And luckily, I'm 57, so I'm actually older in my group now, but I'm still faster than most of the 50-plus.
Long's a freak, by the way.
So my first game back, I went to Arizona from December through May. I don't work out, I don't do anything. My wife hates me. But I don't do a run. My team been practicing indoor, playing. First game last Wednesday. On my drive to the game, I visualized, okay, I'm gonna get the ball from this guy. Usually he will pass the ball to me on the right wing. I'm gonna make a move to the left, I'm gonna move to the right, and the guy in front of me is usually slower than me. He'll shift his way, and he can never recover. I will cut past him, get past him, and shoot. Exactly, almost to the T, that happened to me. I score a goal in first 5 minutes. Didn't do anything after that because I was tired. I stopped out. But I visualized it, and it happened. And I'm telling you guys, visualizations is very important. I want you guys to visualize your success, because every time you see a challenge, it's a growth mindset. What do you do with it? For me is, I love firemen, I love people military. They run towards danger. They don't run away. That's what you want you guys to do. When you see a challenge, you go face head on and see how you can overcome it.
Yes.
So the final area of questions I have for you guys is, I think, we had a great session this morning with Ricardo and Janelle on community, right? And what I love about what we do for a living is that out of the gate, G and Chris and I were not focused on working with the largest companies in the world or in the space. We weren't focused on working with like the big corporations, right, or the big brands. We knew out of the gate that we wanted to work with teams. Now, a team could be a husband and wife team. It could be me, myself, and I, as far as I'm concerned. It could be a team of 5. It could be a team of sort of 8 to 10, which is sort of average. It could be a team of 1,000, right? But we love that sense of community that happens in a team. We love the freedom and autonomy that team leaders have. I'll never forget in a company prior to this when I got a call one day from an awesome team leader in Michigan, and she said, hey, I'm at brokerage XYZ, but I'm thinking about going to brokerage ABC, but I'm calling you first because I want to make sure I don't lose your tech suite. And that, like, the light bulb went off, right? That all of that really, and I'm like, of course not. Like, I don't care where you go. I don't care what your brand is. Like, you're the team. You're my customer. And so as we think about this, you guys have had a lot of courage and resilience individually. You took action. You went forward. You didn't accept defeat. You didn't just wither away and woe is me, like you're like, no, I'm not having that, right? But we work on teams, okay? We work with other people. So you can take this any way you want or which way you want to go with it. How do you, because of your experience, and as team leaders, how do you positively affect others? And what are you looking for in those folks that 360 around you, whether they're coaches, peers, co-owners, teammates, people you're potentially recruiting? What are you looking for in those folks, and how do you also draw not just you helping them helping you? So loaded question, but gets this sense of community.
Yeah, definitely. So I think for me, it's really important that I don't ask or expect others to do something that I'm not willing to do or I haven't done myself previously. So that's literally in every role that we have within our team, whether it's one of our VAs that does transactions, or our ISAs that make calls, or our agents who are out there boots on the ground. I've done, and I still to this day do all of those things so that I can stay relevant to them and so that they see me doing those things instead of pointing fingers and saying, you do this, that doesn't come with any respect. So I really do take it upon myself to do that. The qualities that I look for when I hire are, I don't care what skill set you bring. I am a true testament that I've overcome with not a lot of skill sets around it. So I look for people with a purpose deeper than just making some money. Somebody that's got a story that they're willing to tell, somebody that is that has that fire in their belly, the desire to go out there at any cost and learn how to win. Even if they're at rock bottom today, that's great. I can take you from rock bottom to living a level 12 life. So somebody with a little more substance than, hey, I hear you can make some good money in real estate. No, tell me why. Tell me why you want it and what's really going to motivate you at the end of the day when it gets hard, because real estate gets hard. And there are times we all want to quit. Like, why are we doing this? This is some hard stuff. But at the end of the day, if you can really find that person, that's the team that I like to build, is the one that has that deeper purpose.
Awesome.
Yeah, for me, hard work will trump talent all day. So for me, I want to surround myself with people in the community. We have a Ylopo follow boss, people always sharing with the growth mindset, right? So we can all learn and grow. But I always want to ask people about, their why, which you brought up, because if you have the right why, you will work hard. You can be very talented, but you don't have the right reason and the passion why. The first challenge comes your way, you will give up and change and get out of it. So for me, it's all about mindset and the why. I ask people all the time. My why is that night on the beach. So because of that, my why is I will help anybody I can, because I never want anyone to feel the way I felt that night on the beach, hopeless and helpless. So that's why Howard, I remember my first meeting, I put together a bunch of indie brokers around the country, hang out at an event. I invite Howard to come and share, and he came. I'm like, this big deal guy came and he shared with all of us how to build a business. I'm like, that's who I want to hang around with. So you guys, Howard, G, all these guys, it's a great place to be. I would hang out. You are the average of the 5 people you hang around with. So I'm sorry to say, your best friend, your family, they may not be the right people. Find 5 new people. That's me.
Amen.